Good afternoon, everybody. It is May 1st, 2013. Hail Mary Michelle you. This is a technical blog brought to you by Life. Learning is fundamentally essential, and by the earth is a living classroom. I often say that last one wrong because I keep forgetting when it originally came up with the quote. I keep saying life is a living classroom, which isn't too far from the truth. Now, today is a technical blog, so we're going to talk about technology today. And today, the first thing I want to talk about is preventive maintenance on some of these computers. I've been seeing there's a lot of these older computers and things that sometimes need to be checked out. One of the first of this is I'm looking into this, I'm going to be trying to purchase it on Friday, a G5 Power Mac. Now, it was telling me for about 2 years, and it really has evolved a little bit in those 2 years. But the two classes that we're going to talk about, simple forms, have problems. So each one needs to be addressed individually, even though they can happen in tandem. The two types of Power Mac G5s we're talking about is air-cooled and liquid-cooled. The air-cooled ones are from 1.6 gigahertz to about 2.3 gigahertz, although that one may be also liquid-cooled as well. You'll have to just take a little grain of salt there. The 2.5 gigahertz and up, including the 2.7 gigahertz quad, are liquid cooled. And there's been a few variations of the cooling system in each that you need to be aware of. Now, how it works, in case some of you don't understand, but maybe some of you are automotive mechanics or backyard mechanics do understand about the car. I'm going to use the car system because it's pretty for this example, because that's exactly what it does. Just as your car has an engine, and it has a radiator, and it has a cooling pump on it, on your which it circulates water through the engine jacket of your car to keep the cylinder walls cool. The Power PC chips in this case have a huge, massive liquid cooled heat sink or heat absorber. I'll call it heat absorber. It's a sink, yes, but most people think of heat sink being passive cold. This is active cold. And because it's not using water, it's using something like very well refined pure antifreeze. It's not only is it. I think I've heard that it was probably the same stuff as used in automotive car radiators. But it's like Apple doesn't use crap, so they're certainly not using. They might be using the equivalent of very high grade Prestone or something else. Okay, the problem with this stuff is that if the system leaks, it's highly corrosive, and what it will do is it will eat through and rust out the case and printed circuit boards and everything else, thus turning your beautiful computer into a giant bucket of rusty parts. And all because of a simple leak in the cooling system. Now, in the automotive system, we're going to use it as an example because it's perfect. It's apt. Okay, what is the most common things that can go wrong in a system is rubber belts. The rubber hoses, the seals. Well, the same is true with the G5 cooling systems as well. You probably won't wear out most radiators of your car. I'm not saying you can't, but most radiators of a car doesn't really have that issue of, being garbage. Although over years they can definitely get eaten from the inside out, but that's a whole different story. In this case, the situation is that the cooling system starts to develop leaks around the seals. Of course, you got rubber hoses, and they do, start to fail. And if you don't catch the leak soon enough, the stuff is extremely corrosive, and it will actually start to eat through and rust up metal. And of course, if it gets on a circuit board, it's going to eat through the traces, and it's going to basically turn the board into a big pile of garbage, if you will. So that's something to be considerate about if you're going to go with the liquid cooled systems. I know there's like two different classes of cooling systems. I don't quite know which one is worse. I've heard that the dual pump is not as reliable as a single pump, but I don't quite understand how you can tell which one's which just by looking at a model number. So you'd have to just play it by ear. Regardless, if you're going to get a cold, fluid, liquid cooled Mac, or any liquid cooled system, even PCs, yes, there are many of those. Some PC customizers think that liquid cooling is cool. No pun intended. That's great, but make sure that you check for leaks, and if you have hoses on them that are old and look like they're brittle, this will be the time to replace it before you have to in an unplanned for way. Now, the other problem with a lot of these Macs, which includes all computers, not just Macs and Power Macs, is the issue with the way they were assembled in the factory. They often use processes of soldering, such as wave soldering, and there's another kind of soldering which I don't quite understand, but it's has something to do about BGA chips. I guess that stands for background grid array or something, using solder paste. The whole idea of these chips is that you can, for manufacturers, that they can put them together at very high speed, put lots of chips on the motherboard, and by robots. And then once the chips are placed on the board is actually heated to a certain temperature, and all the chips are supposed to stick. Well, that's great. But unfortunately, sometimes the solder joints were originally kind of weak at the point when they first put them together. They may pass post, and then a couple of years later, because of life, moving around, all of a sudden your computer doesn't work anymore. That's something you need to be watch out for with any system. For some reason, back in the 2003 through pretty much up into maybe the last, excuse me, the last, say about 2011, many Macintoshes had developed problems regarding cold solder joints in the motherboard. The 2003, 2004 Macs and some 2005s were known to have bad cheap capacitors, which can swell up and of course pop. And when they do, they make a mess in their own right, but they're not quite in the same league as. But I already mentioned about the liquid cooling system. Other than the fact is that they could render your Mac useless until replaced the caps. So therefore, you need to be aware of that. But also, obviously, if you find a computer on eBay and it says it just chimes and doesn't start up, that could, or it doesn't start at all. That could be something as simple as needing a new battery on the motherboard. Because, you're talking about if you buy a computer from 2003, the little half AA batteries, such as, so I got a couple of those here, which I bought at CVS, the CR2s, are half AA. They're a little bit fatter than what Apple originally suggested using, but if you're really in a pinch, and if you don't want potentially cracking your holder, go ahead, shove them in there, baby. They'll work. Okay, but just they might need a little bit of coaxing to get into the holders. So you might want to wait on that if you don't want to get the standard Tadrian battery or whatever that they were using, or a Saft battery. But ideally is make sure where you can. Always try to see if your computer stops working first. Change the battery. Okay, it's really not that expensive. Sure, you've got a lot of batteries for your smoke detectors anyway, so why don't you say change it, or at least check the voltage. If if you have the ability to do so, check the voltage on your battery to see if it's reading about 3.5 volts. Now remember, when you test the battery out of the circuit, which means not under load, you're going to see a higher rated voltage. So just make sure to keep that in mind, because you can't really just go by open circuit voltage and say, okay, battery says that it's producing 4.1 volts out of circuit, brand new, and yet when I put it in the circuit, it's only reading, say, 3.7. For example, that's fine. Okay, if you got enough room, there's even another choice you can do, which is to go ahead and pick up a. This is if you have room. Obviously, in the Power Mac G5, you certainly do. Pick up yourself a AA battery holder from Radio Shack. You only need the 2-cell version. 2 standard AA batteries, preferably alkaline. And you can solder the wires to the holder. Make sure to put the red to the plus, the black to the minus, and then find a way to attach the holder to the computer so it doesn't work loose. Since it's a G5 we're talking about, or even a Power Mac G3, might as well mention that too, because I have a G3, so at least I can speak from the G3 perspective. You got room on the PC board, or near the PC board where the battery is. You could go ahead and attach a holder with double-sided sticky tape, and that will allow you, or stick it to the side of the case, and the battery will be long enough to reach and keep the clock running. At least then you could use standard batteries. But if for something like the eMac, you're probably more likely going to have a capacitor problem with it. But you know what? You can always try changing the battery too. But trying to put a AA battery holder in that thing may not be so feasible, because where are you going to set it up? It's not like it's really easy. The battery holder is, you only got so much room to put your hand into the case. And just make sure when you change the battery on these machines, you press the power management reset button less than a second, okay, and then plug it in. Okay, I don't quite get why. Maybe there's a little cap inside the PMU that needs to be drained before you start it up when the mains power. So, and then if everything comes up fine, but it looks like the computer's still a bit off, it's not quite right, you got to go into open firmware on the Power Mac using open firmware. You hold on Command Option OF after you hear the bong, and it'll show you a screen that's usually there's a text-based screen, and it'll give you some verbs. Show you some text about open firmware, what version, blah 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 blah. You want to type in reset NVRAM, or if you really feel gutsy, type reset all. Reset all will reset everything in that computer back to what should be a pretty standard factory default. I cannot tell you how that would work on the Power Mac G5 yet, because I haven't got it yet. But we'll be getting one on Friday. Also, let me bring up briefly, if you're going to buy any computer on the network, especially older machines like this, especially since the Power Mac G5 is so big, please make sure to ask for insurance in the packaging, and also make sure you can get a DOA warranty. It's bad enough if you get a computer and it works fine for a few months and then craps out. Okay, that's okay. I mean, it still sucks, but it's not really like you can blame the seller. It really, really, really rains in your parade when you get the computer home. You're so excited, you plug it in and it doesn't even start. That sucks even more than anything. So definitely you will want to at least make sure the seller has a return excuse me, a return policy, so you can get at least your money back. Although we probably would prefer replacement if one's available. Okay, I was thinking about is this, since we're talking about computers. What about are you open to other types of Macs? I am, but I have to. I'm still thinking the iBook would be a good choice. I found a 14-inch, yeah, a 1134. It's 1.42 gigahertz processor, max of 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, 60 gig hard drive. This is this factory specs. I mean, for doing the videos, it will still take a while to render them, but it meets the original mention I meant about in the last video about which computer is what we're gonna get. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's small. It's fairly fast and it's fairly inexpensive. But the problem with this computer loom is that it also has the fact that you really getting it upgraded beyond the factory defaults is almost very difficult to do because everything is so kind of wrapped underneath the plastic casing. There's like the hard drive is not a little big and just take out a single screw and slide it out like on the ThinkPad, like Ed's ThinkPad, right? So then you have to take this whole thing apart. You have to almost tear it down to the screws. Even the Power Mac G4s are well, actually all the Power Macs versus the Power Macs, PowerBooks. PowerBooks are easier to get at things, but they're still, not as easy as things like the PC line of computers where your hard drive's on the side and you can just, like I said, just take out a screw and just slide the caddy out and put another one in. And this one, at least from what I saw on the PowerBooks, getting the hard drive out is still a matter of taking out a lot of screws, but it's not as likely to cause your computer to get damaged, right? But I like white, and so I would be interested in keeping my computer white. Silver computer like a PowerBook is nice, but it's not really my color. Actually, it's not bad. Silver is, this microphone is silver plated. Yeah, that still works. Yeah. Okay. So, by the way, I found this trick on YouTube. I haven't tried it yet, although I do get quite a few candidates I could try this on. This is a product that is it's actually not for computers at all. We're getting rid of the yellow in the cases. It works for about 3 years, but then you're still going to probably need to redo it 3 years later. What it is you go down to your hair salon from Sally's or any other professional supply, pick up some volume 40 cream hair bleach. Gee, you get to tie this down with your hair braid. Yeah, well, it's kind of the same process. All right. You take the cream hair bleach and the object you want to clean, say, for example, a computer top. If it's like a PC or like, say, for example, a keyboard. You have to take the keyboard apart, obviously, because you don't want to get hair bleach into the electronics. So obviously, anything where electronics potentially could get bleached, you're going to have to be very careful with this, because this is, it's pretty strong stuff, and it will, potentially damage things. So works good on keys. So you should. That's what one of your computers you had before. I should have done it with a lot of my computers if I had known about it. Now, the stuff you get at the drugstore isn't really strong. They suggest a cream hair bleach only because it's going to be strong enough that it could work in real good. They also use an ultraviolet light. Mr. Cat's here. To help hasten the treatment. And what this will do is, but what if you don't have a UV light? I don't have a black light. well, you could probably use the same idea using the sun, but you're gonna have to, occasionally just maybe let the board sit in the sun for a few days, and then, um, so while you're at it, if you're gonna do it with a keyboard and stuff, this would be time to do PM on that keyboard. Clean out the chunky bits in it. Clean out the hair, the fingernails, whatever's in there. You'd be surprised what's in the keyboard. I've found I've cleaned enough keyboards in my time. I don't like doing the job. It's just a dirty job. But obviously, if you're going to go through this much work, I would. Now, if you can't totally take something apart, and obviously there's keyboards that totally taking it down to the PC board inside might actually be more problem than it's worth. You gotta make sure to keep the bleach from getting into the electronics. So obviously, like this guy suggests, if you're gonna do this with keycaps, make a suggestion. Take a picture of the keyboard before you take off the keycaps. Because in case you don't remember how the keyboard goes together, so that you can put the keys in the right places. Just take a snapshot with a regular camera, and then you'll have a picture of it. I did that when I fixed Ed's G-scale train, that I was transferring a PC board from one train to the other, because I was soldered to the lands or the wires that went to the various parts of this G-scale engine on the good board from the bad board. So that means I had to carefully map every single wire so I could hook it up appropriately. Worked. Yep. Just took a long time. Took a long time because all the testing in the end. So I guess that's really about it. Except to say, also there are obviously other common sense things if you're going to go looking for secondhand equipment. The biggest problem a lot of time people with secondhand equipment is they think equipment is going to be come vintage antique after a while. Some computers, that's true, and some computers is just the luck of the draw. I mean, there are some computers on the market, for example, an IBM PC, original 5-slot computer with a 150-watt power supply. 65 watts. Is it? Yeah. Okay, so about 65 to 100-watt power supply. 5¼ inch floppy drive, actually two 5¼ inch floppy drives. Two 5¼ inch floppy drives. Monochrome display, it's not going to sell very well. I don't care how well it's been treated in the original backs and the original sealed wrappings. With the original discs unopened, yeah, maybe that might sell for a pretty good price. But if it's a computer that has been, in an office for years and it's got, sticky residue and from post-it notes and everything else on it, it's not going to sell as much. And the same thing's true with the G5s. The G5s, by the way, are running into the same thing. Unless you're really, really a Felix Unger of the computer industry, you're not going to really need to worry about if it's really ultimately clean as stickies and all that stuff. But if you really are worried about that, there is ways to clean off the sticker residue. I'm sure if you ever study the tips from Helise, Helise, she has these suggestions for this kind of stuff, how to get rid of stickers and stuff like that and get rid of all the residue. I forgot what the suggestion was, but you can go ahead and get the stuff off the keyboards and stuff. That would really work out very well for most people. The other thing is that I think that most people really don't think about that much, And the fact sometimes people have the attitude, like, I think products such as the Showtime Rotisserie Grill have kind of encouraged it when people start from Ron Popeil, set it and forget it. Okay, that's great. Okay, but you got a computer that's going to suck in dust. It's gonna have to be removed to get rid of dust bunnies. In fact, I just briefly cleaned up around one of my computers. I was totally surprised how much cruft was on the floor. I haven't got done cleaning it. I just cleaned up some of the bigger chunks. I guess a lot of stuff fell behind my desk, and I just kind of just start picking it up. You'd be surprised what's behind there. The other thing is, this is more really true for other electronics, but I'm going to bring this up too. Cables, or should I say the conditions of the cables. Many, as I said, this really doesn't apply to most computers, because most PCs are certainly a lot newer than the kind of cords I'm talking about. But I have seen this with Ed's train, model trains, especially these American Flyer trains, on rewiring them. Is the original natural rubber insulation starts to rot away, and when it does, it becomes really, really more like just crumbs. Okay, it's the same thing with the wiring in our building. Oops. Yeah, oops. So obviously, and if you're going to collect old computer stuff, maybe stuff from the days of mainframes, be aware of that the wiring insulation is going to go bad. You're going to have to replace it along with the capacitors and everything else. And maybe you should slowly turn it on, just like the old tube radio guys say, with a variac, and just slowly turn it up so you can prevent any power supply capacitors from exploding outright. But maybe we don't have to quite go that far. But maybe if it's a computer that's been sitting around and somebody is adding for about, since the 80s, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea to do that. Just to put it on a variac and slowly turn it up, say from, maybe 60 volts, and bring it on up to your rated mains voltage of that device. Here in the United States, that would be about 120 volts to 125 volts. And see how it works and performs. More than likely, you're probably going to have to replace caps. My 1541 drive has got, definitely needs a cap job. But the situation with the wiring is just, as I said, sometimes wires do break. Also, be careful of the old Molex connectors on the going to parts on the board, because the wire, especially the kind of clip in the board and there's like little snaps. They snap, they break, and so you want to make sure when you're taking those guys out that you're very careful to watch out for breaking those tangs or tabs, because depending on the situation, it may not be so accessible to you. By the way, I got Mr. Cat here. Yeah. Hi, Fuzzy. Hi, Fuzzy. I got you. Yeah, he's getting his summer fur. Yeah, summer fur. Summer fur, oh my mama. This is having fun with it. Okay, now, by the way, for those of you who wondered why I mentioned on the other video with Dory, which I'm uploading at the same time today, that about the the technical video. What happened is the reason why that video wasn't put up. This video is supposed to be replacing that one, because what happened was I was so tired. I was yawning all the way through, and so I left it the way I was yawning all the way through, and let me just kill the thing. It's just redo it, because it looks terrible. You look tired. You're half asleep. Your brain is like in somewhere else. So I said, okay, fine, we'll redo it. And that's what this video is for. This is really a makeup for the technical video that we did not issue publicly on April 31st or April 30th, 2013. So if you wondered why the technical blog video was supposed to be dated for the 2013 April 30th, it wasn't up there, now you know why. Okay. Yep. Okay. Also, the you want to go for two? What do you mean? Well, we did a video yesterday briefly with Dory, and talking about how much my life has changed since I joined, but we never really went into detail in this video about that. So I'm wondering if we should bring that video into this video, make this and go for go for a killer. No, okay, yeah, because here's the problem though. If we bring those two videos together, is that a lot of people are going to be going, because they like short ones, they don't like long ones. Yeah, and I thought what we talked about with Dory was pretty much about as far as we really could realistically go. I think that it would be an interesting topic, but I don't think that we need to really rehash it again the day after we originally rehashed it up for the first time. Except to say, so what I would do is, if you want to see that, it's going to be up on the one with the Dory Minefield video, because that's what the second part of the video is about. And the most important thing we want you to do is we want you to contact us, and we want you to share and speak to us and tell us if you like our videos, and if there's any suggestions, we will answer them as best we can. Now, we've gotten a couple comments, and let's see, I was going to talk about one of them, and then I kind of forgot which one it was. There was comments about our religious videos. There were comments about why your fingernails are black sometimes. There were comments about what's it like to live with Lumi. Okay, yeah, alright, we'll briefly discuss that. Although I did mention that with the Brittany and Abigail Hensel comparison with Dory. Just for those of you who don't know, Abigail and Brittany Hensel are a conjoined sisters, conjoined from the neck down. It's two physical heads on one body, and but unlike Lumi and me, each one only can control one side of the body. So, like, for example, Abigail, which is the one on the right side, has control of is that right? Yeah. Okay, has control of the right hand and the right foot. And Brittany, which is on the left hand, has control of the left hand and the left foot. Right. Okay, so what that means is that their whole life is always a compromise. I mean, they're always having to work together to come up with a solutions to the issues at hand. Me and Lemmy went into more detail with Dory about that in the video from yesterday. But just to say that, for those of you who are going to watch that blog, I think you will like it if you're interested in it. All right. And also, we need to update the as soon as we get the new computer, we're going to try re-encoding the videos again in ultra high resolution, standard 640 by 480 is fine, and see how fast they encode on the server as MPEG-4s as well. We're going to also do the same kind of benchmark on the iMac, or I'm sorry, eMac G4, just so we can compare apples to apples, at least as far as the actual same source code, same software on two different processors. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. And hopefully people will enjoy it. Yep. So everybody, I want you to know that we will be working more on the videos. So please don't forget to like and share.